your victories with. Because many times people can see you fall apart. Oh, I'll pray for you. Everything okay? And when you break out, it disturbs people's life position. Wait. And you share a financial blessing. You share a healing. You share a breakthrough. And all of a sudden they're acting weird. Like, wait a second. You said you were praying for me in this area. A breakthrough. And it's very odd to me. It's concerning how Christians make like someone else to be blessed, and we just make it about ourselves. Sharing that details because like I was a child on my own. This is about you right now. Maybe it's about the household. I'm going through this hell. And this what's going on? And here I am, like, experiencing joy. What's the best thing about joy? It's sharing. What? And in the sharing, you realize, wow, it's kicking up the brokenness and places of envy in other people's lives. And even, I noticed this pattern too. I'd see this in church services where somebody would give a testimony. And I get what people are saying when they do this. I'm not trying to be a critic, but it's just, this is honesty time. Someone shares a testimony of breakthrough, right? Maybe it's a physical healing. Maybe it's a financial healing. Or maybe they got the classic check in the mail kind of story. And somebody would stand up and go, I'm rejoicing in this because I know mine is coming right around the corner. Why are you making this about you? Why can't we just rejoice with those who rejoice? I propose it's harder to rejoice with those who rejoice. And I would propose it's easier to weep with those who weep. Now, there's challenges on both. But I would say to you, if I want to get into the kibbles and bits of what you battle, come on. It's when someone's experiencing blessing. Someone tells their story and journey of breakthrough and a healing of their heart or mental health area of your life. And you're like in the worst season of your life in those kind of things. And if it doesn't encourage you to stay the course, invite God to wash your heart with his love so that he can build your faith for your journey. I do believe the testimony of others is meant to encourage our journey. So don't take me wrong here. But we have to be honest about how we often turn so much of what we see is a result of how we see ourselves. Our bitter, toxic perspectives to others are a result of how we see ourselves in the inner life we're cultivating.
This is Captain McDonald. Today, Delta Airlines is connecting people to what matters and flying more sustainably. When sustainable aviation fuel from Shell is used instead of conventional jet fuel, it can help reduce life cycle emissions by up to 80%. Together,
the inner life we're cultivating. Are you with me so far? A fifth sign of envy is you're always comparing yourself. Comparison is always going to lead you to a dead end. If you compare yourself to someone else and feel like you're better or doing better, it's going to lead you to what? Just self-righteousness, arrogance, whatever. Some pride, you're going to look at others with contempt. You compare yourself to others and you feel you're less than, it's going to lead you into despair, self-pity, victim thinking. It's going to lead you to some very nasty, toxic perspective. It's going to lead you to gossip and slander. It will drive you to find ways to tear that other person down. It may not be actually aggressively trying to tear them down actively, but it may through your words towards others about them. It may be through how you have conversations about them. Another sign is you manifest constant ingratitude, just rarely content and constantly unfulfilled. Now, don't let this be an accusation, because I think we all have this in certain areas. There are areas of my life that need more gratitude. There are areas right now, not yesterday, right now. There are areas of my life that need more contentment. There are areas of my life right now that need deeper fulfillment. Now, what envy will do is distract me from letting God fill that. How does he distract? Take my eyes, turn them green, and cause them to look outward and stay busy and distracted in what I'm looking at out there, so that I don't deal with me. This is the world we live in, ladies and gentlemen. This is what drives many conversations. It's what drives the topics on the news. It's what drives our cultural interactions right here. It hides, does a good job hiding, and keeps us from the redemptive work that God's wanting to do. Are you always comparing yourself? Because if you are, then you can't appreciate your journey. I think what other people are going through, what other people's battles are, need not to be the main focus of our day. The main focus of your day is scrolling through feeds and news, of focusing on what everyone's doing wrong and all these things. Be aware it's going to distract you from your own healing, because that's harder work. It's easier to just look with contempt at so many other people. It's harder work to look at yourself in the mirror and work through how you see yourself. When you get back to working on your own contentment, your own fulfillment, your own gratitude, you won't have time for envy. This is why the Bible gave an instruction that was very simple, very practical, and it was that of learn to mind your own business. Right? Give me a word from God. Give me a prophetic word from God. I hear the Lord saying, mind your own business. No, I need a word. It's got to be deep. It's got to be something deep I'm going to know, and I'm going to impress people that I hear from God in a deep way. Yes, here it is. Mind your own business.
Firearms are the
Own business. Today I invite you, let's tune into gratitude. For where we are, look around, connect to gratitude. For the relationships you do have, the people you do know. I don't care if you feel you're all alone and you have that neighbor who's retired next door and every day you say hello to them. Let's connect to gratitude for the opportunities we have right now. Now is the time. Today is the day. Let's connect to contentment. God, I'm going to choose to be satisfied in you right where I am right now. And I'm going to let you fulfill the desires of my heart and where I'm at. Let the flood of the waters of your love take those places. So without these healing pathways, number 7, you're going to tend, a sign of envy is you're going to tend to jump to judging others and criticizing how you see them. That's going to be your go-to. And our basis often of criticism, judgment, has a lot of envy at its root system. Now, I'm going to get to the root system of envy. What does it look like? What is the bottom of this toxic root pattern look like? But before I get to that, someone say, well, what about jealousy? My main word I'm using today is envy. Now, the word jealousy can tag into it. We can certainly talk about envy and jealousy. But many people get confused because there's aspects of jealousy that cross over. There's aspects of jealousy that don't. Because you see in the scriptures where God talks about jealousy. And it's something that he's wanting to help us to understand in relationship. Jealousy is a zealous desire for what someone else has. And you kind of go, well, that can cross over to envy. But there is a healthy type of jealousy, and there's an unhealthy type of jealousy. Okay? A healthy type of jealousy is revealed in the scriptures where God's heart comes towards his people. He's passionately moving towards his people in his unwavering love towards us. He carries a perfect passion for loyalty. Okay? I am God, there is no other. And he's committed himself that he will never leave us. He will never forsake us. He will always be faithful to his promises. And he's ever present in our time of need. He's always here. He never disappears. But he's very passionate about this relationship. And so he calls for passionate loyalty from his children, from us as believers, so that we commit, we learn the faithfulness of God, responding to his faithfulness, and we walk in greater faithfulness in our journey. We learn what it means to remain faithful, to live as overcomers. He asks for surrender to him. He asks because God is a covenant loyal relationship. Now, the Bible brings out in James, the Holy Spirit dwells within us, yearns jealously. It's like God saying, draw near. Draw near. I want there to be a full love relationship here. Now, I know this subject can get into legalism and people spin out on that stuff. But can we hear the heart? Because when a wife sits down with a husband and says, listen, you've been going to these business meetings with that lady on your team, and you smile real big and real extra when you're with her. And when you're with me, I don't see that anymore. We got to shape up in our marriage. Something's got to change. Is there a part of jealousy that's there? There's a trigger of a speaking of loyalty to that. So why do we spin out when God says it to us? Because if you're married and your spouse is acting inappropriately, it triggers something in you in a good way to go, hey, now there can be a dangerous jealousy, mistrust, checking at every turn. Right? That's why we need discernment to know what's what. God has to work those things out in us, right? But God speaks of himself as a passionate, jealous lover who he wants loyalty and faithfulness from us. He wants us to be all in. Even in Romans, the Bible speaks about, Paul writes about being provoked to jealousy, that people who have fallen into a slumber, a stupor, they've fallen into this place of numbness, which it does speak to a lot of people today, just in a stupor of inactivity, stupor of just being in spiritual passivity. And Paul was saying that I hope that you get provoked to jealousy, that stuff that's happening over here will provoke you to go, I need to wake up. I need to step up into my place of awakening. Most people don't. They get awakened into the deception of envy. And they live out of that envy. And they fuel it. So a healthy aspect of jealousy in marriage could bring a greater connectivity and trust. And bring a more solid connection of covenant. But a demonic jealousy will tie in with envy, make you suspicious, paranoid, and fuel insecurity, and won't let you deal with yourself. So I hope that makes sense. But my focus here is specifically the word envy. Now, if we look at the root system of this, like what's happening here? Let me break this down a little bit. Because at the baseline, at the root, we have areas of our life where insecurity is there, emptiness, discontent, and pain, brokenheartedness. Those are the areas there. Now, the first thing that wants to grab a hold is not necessarily envy. It's that big word I put there at the bottom of the slide, rejection. And this is why I am so passionate about teaching people about the root of rejection, because it sits at the root system of our brokenness. Wherever you're not loved, wherever you don't know who you are, and wherever you're struggling in relationships, a rejection mindset will take over. And it will hand the baton over to envy. Because what does rejection say? Rejection says, I'm not loved. But then it starts creating these comparative things. I'm not loved, but it seems like they are. I'm not seen, but they're seen. I don't matter as much as that person. I don't have value, but they have value. I have no identity, but they have an identity. So bitterness begins to creep in, and it ties in with that comparison. So it's rejection, bitterness, and comparison cycle with each other. And the focus is outward. The focus is, you have something I don't, and I'm furious about it. I'm disturbed by it. And so we fuel this, and we think our focus becomes that person needs to get a change. That person needs to. We don't step back and go, I need to deal with me. So then we feed it culturally to other people. Look what they have and what we don't have. Let's attack them. And what's interesting is that when you look at someone, for example, let's say you're in ministry, and there's people out there who have families of ministry, decades of ministry, right? Grandfather, great-grandfather, right? Just lineage of that. And you look at this one person, and they're very influential. Who I could list out a bunch of names. That's not my point here. And people get envious. And they want to disqualify that person, attack that person. But you know what we don't see? We don't see the hundreds of years and generations of investment. A lot of envy comes out of hating the generational blessing people are experiencing. But there's a price and sacrifice people made. Many people who have certain aspects of wealth had generations or a lifetime of sacrifice and hard work. But we see the blessing, we dismiss the hard work, and we go, they have something I don't have, and it fuels contempt within us. And this is where wars will rise up on the earth. It's been happening. There's different names for it. There's different labels, but it's no different than what we read in the Bibles. Families against families, cultures against cultures, people groups against people groups, nations against nations. There's something you have, and I want it. And you don't deserve it. And therefore, I want it, and I'll take it. So we look at others with disgust. Meanwhile, you're going deeper into toxicity. Meanwhile, you're losing your sanity because envy will make us mentally ill. Envy will cause us to distort because it's fueled by a rejection mindset. It's fueled by places that are unhealed, that we're not inviting God into. And this is tricky, isn't it? Because you remember what I said, you get hit where you're most vulnerable. You get hit in those places where you're going through trials. The worst thing you can do in a trial is compare yourself.
There was no.
Because that's a hateful work on what you're going through. What you're going through is what you're going through. It's your journey. And God has us all in different seasons of our journey. Many years ago, I went through a very, very, very difficult situation. It was traumatizing. It was a situation where there was a person who I knew in ministry. It was a church that I was pastoring who had passed away. And I did not even realize this. Had written some things towards my wife and I in her will. We were shocked and surprised.
I don't think that's bad.
And this lady had no one in her life. She died pretty much alone. It was very sad. During that season, it was the reason it was very traumatic is because we got attacked. We got attacked. All kinds of things rose up because people came out of the woodwork saying, oh, I was loved by her the most. I should be getting such and such. Now, this was a very, 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 very difficult situation for us because we didn't ask for this. We didn't want, and in fact, what we were written into the will created more problems for us down the road than anything else. It was, to get into the details of all of it, it was more of a nightmare. But what was very, very traumatic was going to a lawyer, and we thought we were just meeting to go, what's this all about? We don't know what the details are here. Meanwhile, we didn't know there were other people coming to this and attacking that I had some motive, some ulterior motive in the influence of this situation, and the influence of the will. It was awful. It was absolutely awful. Because I was like, I didn't even know about this. I didn't even know she was considering this. Now, most of what she sent was sent to a ministry out in Africa. God bless them. They got, but there was aspects of things and she left behind, and she had been blessed by our ministry. And since I wanted to leave some of these things to them, it created so much hassle for us. Looking back, we were like, we wish we were never in that. And I was amazed at these family members, they're like distant cousins and things like that. All of a sudden, we loved her. And wait a second, when she was sick, we didn't even know you existed. You were nowhere to be found. Had people in our church visiting her on a regular basis, watching over her, never be found. And these distant relatives were furious at me, thinking I was like wedging my way in there. They were creating a story that wasn't true, wasn't accurate. And it was tough because you go, how much do I defend myself? Like, what's going on here? We live in a very litigious culture, right? It can be frightening at times. What's my point? We sat down with the lawyer afterwards. I was like, what in the world was that? That kind of attack. That kind of anger. And he said to me, something I'll never forget. He said, in many ways, a death in the family is worse than divorce. Now, we think divorces are the ugliest, right? We see how nasty they get. He said, many times deaths can be worse. Because the driving thought that rises up in people is a desire for wealth or possessions. And they'll say to them that the driving thought is, he or she loved me the most. I sat back and I went, wow, I could see that. And I would tell people, if you're, getting older in your years of life or whatever, get a will, make it clear. I would tell people, make it super clear. Whatever you do, because when there's death, people who are family members will rise up with envy and say, no. Whether he died or she died, loved me the most. I had a special place. And that becomes the driving force. It's destructive. It's awful. I walked out of that season like spinning. Like this was an awful, awful situation. What just happened? A character was run through the ringer, accused of stuff honestly didn't do. None of the details of what they were saying. And most of all, it's like, where did you all come from? You haven't been here at all in this person's life. But all of a sudden, it's driven out of, families have divisions and strife. Dad loved me the most. Mom loved me the most. That's really the driving motive. We think, oh, no, it won't happen. But then when it does, people become the scapegoat. There's rejection issues. These envy patterns run in family for generations. Oh, I was the unloved child. Now, that could be a pattern that's true. But when envy drives it, now we're going to make destructive decisions. And I was on the end of someone's envy. You're getting something you don't deserve. And I'm like, first of all, what we're getting has a lot of baggage to it. There was property that needed so much work on it. It basically had been destroyed. It didn't need a complete gut job. It was like it cost us. Not to mention all the emotional things that went along with it. Families get eroded and destroyed. I sit down in counseling sessions and with people one-on-ones, and I watch the work of envy erode people and destroy them. We see it from the beginning of time. We see it in the first relationship offspring of Adam and Eve, with Cain and Abel. We see it with Jacob and Esau. We see it with Israel and other nations. We see nation rising against nation. We see it against races. We see it with cultures. And do you notice there's no healing in it? Do you notice there's no true redemption? Do you notice chaos just gets worse? Why? Because rejection and envy are fueling it. Without rejection and envy, we humble ourselves before God. We get healing. And we take the mindset off of the other party. And we let God heal ourselves so we can grow and mature. Notice in our culture is just strife. And James gave this exhortation. He said, where there is strife, envying strife, you know what you're going to find? Every evil thing. It's like, if I could use this metaphor, envy and strife are the Pandora's box of evil. In families, in a nation, in culture groups. And it stays hidden. It never becomes center stage. Because if you bring it center stage, we'd have a domino of repentance, a domino of healing, and we'd cut to the heart of what's going on. Wars of all kind are fueled by envy, by strife. Lust for power, driven out of our unhealed brokenness. Even in the Old Testament, you could see God choosing Abraham. Now, Abraham came out of a pagan country, a pagan nation, where there was lots of sorcery, witchcraft, and God plucks him out and chooses him to be the father of a nation. That God will weave blessing all the way up to and through Messiah. And we see that blessing continuing to this day. All throughout the Old Testament, you see nations rising up in what? Envy. Envy. What is this blessing of God falling on these people and not us? So why did God choose Abraham and not choose someone else? Why does God choose Paul, who was Saul? Now, as a Christian, you love reading about Abraham, right? As a Christian, you love reading about Paul. me tell you something. You wouldn't handle Paul very well if you lived in his day and age. Paul was Saul, and he killed Christians. How would you like to have Saul be at the helm of one of your children being stoned for being a Christian? And now Saul's a Christian, and he's now Paul, and he's healing people left and right. Signs, wonders, and miracles are following him. Oh, you love Paul now, but if you were living back then, you might have some envy you'd be dealing with. Why is he getting blessing? Why is he operating in those gifts? Who does he think he is having this apostolic ministry? And you could, on a sheet of paper, write down a list of things you think are right. And you could justify them. You could get other people on your side, too. And they could agree, yeah, you're right. You're right. How dare they? All throughout the scriptures we see this. Going back to the Jewish people, they experienced the work of envy of other people attacking them. It's an interesting analogy to my brothers and sisters in Australia and New Zealand. There's a term you're very familiar with called the tall poppy syndrome, where people criticize, put down, even sabotage someone else because of a blessing of success they're experiencing, good fortune they're experiencing, good things that they are manifesting in their own life. You put someone else down, but really has to do with your own insecurities. Now, this is not exclusively an Australian or New Zealand-based issue. We certainly have this here in America. We certainly have it all over the world. It's all over the planet. But it's an interesting analogy. In fact, I was thinking about this when I was watching a Australian-based show, and it was a show where people were competing of who had a better bed and breakfast kind of situation, and they would all go to each other's places, and they would have to judge it, and it was a competition. And it was just so interesting, this tall poppy syndrome rising up in each situation, because you'd watch them walk into the place, and instead of appreciating, oh, great colors, great organization, wow, this is wonderful, you see people revert to the negative. You'd see their eye turn green and looking down, right? And they just start picking apart all the things they didn't like, right? Like a self-protective mechanism. Well, one, they wanted to win the competition, but two, you got to protect ourselves from feeling that they have a blessing in a certain area. And I want to work on actually truly being happy for them. Hey. This envy empowers a spiritual slavery. And the scriptures speak about deliverance from spiritual slavery. God is wanting to deliver us, all of us, all the people of God, out of spiritual slavery. Envy will keep you in it and not allow you to enter into the blessing that actually all of us have, that the blessing of Abraham might be on all of us people of faith. Spiritual slavery will block the ability to see that the blessing of God is available for me. No, these other people have it. Today's cultural climate says, you're better than me. You have advantages and privileges, and you're going to pay for it. Because of that, we can justify it. We can tell all kinds of stories, but we let envy work underground, fester in those places. Sales in business are built on envy. Portraying a life that someone else has and triggering the life that you think you don't have, and this is what you want, right? We can get people into our marketing companies and get people into our business. I have this life. I portray this life. Do you want it? You want the life you really want to have? Do you want the life of your dreams? What does it poke at? It pokes at your discontent. It pokes at that place. It pokes at that painful place. It says, yeah, I want that green grass and that nice house and that second house and vacation homes. Yes, I want to work from home and have that structure. I want to have that. I want to have it and have it all. I want to have all those things. And you're telling me I can have it, and it's hitting at that place. And envy fuels our very critical culture. Like I said earlier, we love to attack the wealthy people, the CEOs, the megachurch pastors. We love attacking those influential people in Christianity. Not right or wrong, they're at a magnified level of so much of their life being seen. Would you like your life being looked at with that kind of microscope? Because listen, when someone looks at you with a green eye, they'll find things, and it's painful. But we still choose to do that to people in positions and high and lofty places. And listen, there's corruption in all kinds of places. There's corruption in all kinds of positions. It doesn't mean we ignore it. What you need to be aware of is envy driving the narrative of what you're believing, voting. Social media, of course, is one of the greatest places that makes room for envy. It plays off of it. And it plays off of those places of discontent. It plays off of those places where you feel like you don't have those things. How many of those areas, though, are not even real? Because we're presenting something. When you put something on social media, you've crafted it, you've edited it, you've put filters on it, you've spent time looking at the presentation of it. So social media isn't real. You ever think about that? It's just not real. Am I saying it's evil? I'm not necessarily saying it's all evil, but I know it's not real. It's not an accurate depiction of real life. Is social media causing us to act more out of brokenness? Or is it revealing our brokenness? Is social media the cause, or is it simply just exposing who we are? Because in my study, I thought about how much envy drives social media. But then I realized, wait a second, I don't have that, or I wish I had that, or why does this person have that, or why did they get, this has been here since the beginning of time. This was here long before social media. Even in my years growing up, the keeping with the Joneses was the mindset that was often portrayed, and that was a driving factor. We created a standard of this avatar, this family. They were called the Jones family, and we were going after being like them. I noticed there were certain families, when I was pastoring, I noticed there were certain families that had a little bit more finances, maybe a little bit more influence, and they just seemed to have a nice life. And I would notice other families that kind of want to get into a place of hanging and hobnobbing and connecting with that. And there was this place of like, well, they seem like they have it together. I'm going to connect with them. Recently, I spent some time over in Lancaster County in Pennsylvania, here in the States. And those of you who live in this area, you know there's a saturated population of Amish community there. And I love taking the tours and doing all that kind of stuff. And some of my Mennonite brothers and sisters out there that I've talked to, I've done even session work and things like that. I think you'll get a kick out of what I'm sharing, and you'll nod your head. I take these tours throughout. It's so much fun, just appreciating the fundamental practices that they have of farming and things, and it's amazing what you can see in the Amish community. But when we took the tour, I was walking through, and I couldn't help but notice. And you all know I'm into growing grass and chopping trees down, and my wife and I do a little bit of gardening, and you know that's our thing. We love it. We enjoy it. We're going to keep growing in that and keep learning, right? So what am I noticing, right? The thing that you tend to pay attention to is the thing you notice, that your brain looks out for. I'm just looking at. Look at this green grass. It is beautiful. I'm looking at the mulch and the plant and bush area. like, this is great. And just, like, the mulch looked like they just poured it before we got there. Beautiful, colorful flowers. Not a single one of them dead. Not a single one of them decayed. I'm like, you could pluck all of these right now and sell them for top dollar. It's beautiful. So I thought it was interesting because the tour guide, who had been in the Amish community, actually left it, which that's a major step. And she was telling us stories that, yeah, that's a very competitive thing. Like, being a part of the community, you got to have your lawn together. You got to have your appearance of the area. You got to have it put together. And even how you hang the laundry. If you don't hang the laundry in a certain way or at a certain time, you can even go to church and they'll reprimand you, give you the look. Like, you got to have your act together. So I'm sitting here going, man, I'm impressed with the work. And then I'm being given information talking about the envious, competitive nature of what's going on behind the scenes. What steals our peace, right? What steals our peace? Now, what envy loves is it loves that comparison. It's going to steal your joy. When you're down, when you really just need encouragement and appreciation for your church. I'll be honest, I remember many of you have heard the story about the small church that I pastored that I left pastoring to move into what I do now, but I also just closed the church. It was like, it was a big step. Big step. Interesting thing is, when I did that, many other pastors said, man, I wish I could do the same. Oh, God help us. God help us. But I remember it was weird. Like, Saturday nights, I'd be sitting there just praying about the next morning. We had our church, at that time we had church on Sunday mornings. It was a season we did Sunday nights. I also did some Friday night stuff too. I remember sitting there, it'd be like a Saturday night, tired, just struggling. Church is struggling, stuff struggling, finance struggling, things struggling. And it was this weird thing that would happen. It's almost like the mouse would move and I'd start typing it, and I just started like looking up church websites. And I'd be bouncing from church website to church website, just looking what everyone else is doing. And I just kind of feel that pain of other churches seeming to grow. And that temptation to like disqualify me, right? And I'd be like, what am I doing? Here I am, like 15 tabs deep. Like God bless all these churches, but I need to just focus on what God's doing with us and appreciate what He's doing with us. On the other hand, I also know too, my wife and I do a lot of teaching on marriage and the hard work that we've done in marriage. And I saw envy in my church completely strangle many couples, many wives, and husbands. They hear how Melissa and I talk through what we're going through. Now, what they dismiss is the pain, the heartache, the struggle, the sacrifice to work on ourselves and work on stuff other people are willing to work on, and they see the fruit of what our marriage is producing, and they're getting envious and getting mad at us.
As we believe in the name of His Son, Jesus Christ,
we had a lot of problems.
this is His commandment.
And even to this day, I'll admit, when I talk on air with Melissa about our marriage, there's a part of me to this day that still cringes because I know what it will trigger in envy of other people, thinking we just have it perfect and all together, and we just went down a slip and slide into a marriage, and we just have an amazing marriage. We have a great marriage out of hard work. Envy doesn't take into consideration sacrifice. It doesn't take into consideration generations of hard work. It dismisses that. So I've had to learn how to be wise about sharing my victories. That's sad. That saddens me. It saddens me. It saddens me that if one of my books hit it big and a lot of financial resources came about, it would upset an entire population of Christianity. That's sad. It's sad. And that's a result of the church not dealing with brokenness. This is why healing of the heart needs to be an important thing in our lives, because most board meeting problems and church leadership problems, church problems, is out of envy.
For what ails you?
But we don't check it because we haven't been checking the heart
No, take me.
at all.
Always appreciate you.